So we're not in Guatemala anymore. And right now, we're actually in Colorado. What's that about, right? A lot's changed since then. That was last July 2023. And now it's June 2024. And things look a little bit different now. So let's play catch up. Let's start from the beginning. Let's head back to Lake Atitlan. That's where the story begins.
Nettie's really happy with all this grass here. Aren't you?
During our final week at Lake Atitlan, 2 months into our stay in Guatemala, we realized that we not only had one more month to get out of Guatemala, but also all of the C4 countries. What are the C4 countries, you may be asking? Well, there's obviously 4 of them, and they're all in Central America. We've got Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. And we had one more month to go through all of those countries before our visa expired. You may be wondering, how did we not know this? How did we miss this? Well, we're kind of wondering that too. All I can say is I'm glad we learned about it when we did, so we can make a plan. We had a couple of options. If we decided to stay in Guatemala and continue further south, we were going to have to do one of 2 things. We would either have to reach out to an immigration lawyer and send in our passports so that they could try to help us request an extension for our visa. Sounds pretty difficult and maybe expensive. The other option would have been a border run back to Mexico. And from what we've heard, you need to spend at least 72 hours in Mexico before you can try to re-enter the C4 countries, which again is a little bit of a gamble, right? That might work, it might not. And beyond this issue with the C4 countries running out of time before our travel visa was going to expire, we were also running into some issues with the camper. The main issue we were having with the camper was the canvas, and that's because of the rain. We had some friends that were in Costa Rica that told us some horror stories about the heavy rains there. Rainy season was in full swing, and hurricane season wasn't far behind either, so we had some decisions to make. We remembered how terrible the camper was when we were in Haines and Skagway in really heavy rains, and concerns that we were going to have more mold issues, which we were already combating. And not only that, we were also having issues with the cats in the canvas. As cute as it was, we didn't love it when Tyga would jump in that little pocket between our window and the cover, the shade. Ma'am, what are you doing? And she was doing that all the time. And once we were at Lake Atitlan, we had a couple of really bad nights with her, where she would wake us up all hours of the night, clawing and pawing, trying to get in there. And every now and then, when the cats were feeling stir crazy or super playful, they would jump up and latch into the canvas with their claws. Again, we were super worried that they were going to rip it. We weren't going to be able to find a replacement, or we just really struggled to get it repaired. So, with all of these issues, we decided we were heading back north. We were starting to dream about the possibilities of a hard-sided camper or something similar, and once we had the idea in our head, we ran with it. And even though this required a lot of work, a lot of driving, and a lot of money, I think I can safely say we're both happy we made this choice. So, with all of this in mind, we left Lake Atitlan and headed to Antigua. Up we go! We're making our way out of the Lake Atitlan area, heading to Antigua. And the way that is actually most recommended to leave, if your vehicle has enough power, is to take the steep route, which is far quicker. Shaves off about 40 minutes of the drive, and you don't have to drive through as many of the villages like we did on the way in. But it's the same road we took in the tourist van to do the hike to Indian Nose. And if you remember, It was pretty steep, but pretty curvy, pretty windy.
Yeah, we were riding along in the Colectivo, going down these curves, and I was like, shoo-wee, I'm glad I didn't have to drive this road on it.
Right, the irony. But it's going okay.
We're halfway up now.
Yeah, about halfway up. The road hasn't been too busy, and in some ways we're kind of lucking out with this moto in front of us, because if he goes, that usually means that there's no one coming. So, but we're still honking just to be safe. There sure are some pretty views though. Oh, finally had to reverse.
Luckily, nobody's coming. So.
Yes, luckily.
Get away.
It's alright right here.
Look at those views.
I know, it's really stunning. So we left Lake Atitlán and headed to Antigua, where we spent 2 weeks with the goal of exploring a little bit, but mostly preparing to go back home. Nettie, what do you smell? She's been sitting here sniffing this bush for about 5 minutes. Must be good. We ended up spending 2 weeks in Antigua, and while we had the intention of enjoying ourselves a bit more than we did, most of our time really was spent getting the camper prepped and making a sales ad for the camper, which we posted before we headed back north. But don't worry, we still enjoyed ourselves a little bit and had plenty of good tasting coffee and delicious pastries. We left Antigua on a Monday in early August. 4 days, 2 border crossings, 32 hours of driving, and 1,600 miles later, we were in Texas. And within another week, we were back home in the Midwest. Although, only for a minute, because the camper sold pretty fast. So within a week or two, we were driving it to its new home up in New York. So we just sold it! We just dropped off the camper and drove away, and we're feeling all the feels.
Yeah, it's definitely very bittersweet. The camper was our first adventure mobile, and had so many good times with so many different places. It's a new chapter, but still, we had a lot of good times in that thing.
Yeah, it's a good camper. La Tortuga was a good one. Beach really missed, but I think the new buyers are going to have their own adventures, and it's a great camper, so it'll live its next chapter. And exactly 1 month later, we found our new one. Although, not before making a few changes to the truck first, which unfortunately didn't go as smoothly as planned, and honestly, it's been more of a headache than anything else. But more on that later. We got the camper!
Yeah, very exciting. It was actually a lot better than I expected it was going to be, and especially after looking at that Laredo in South Carolina. Man, this camper is just perfect. Exactly what we wanted, so super happy with it so far.
Yeah, it looks really nice inside. There's no signs of water damage or mold, no leaks. All the windows have good seals still. Everything works. And yeah, it's gonna be perfect. And I really was thinking we wanted a Laredo based on the layout from looking at pictures of it. But I told David, I think things had to work out the way they did and go into a Laredo just to see that that's not really what we wanted. And walking in this one, which now we bought the Adventurer, and it just feels so much more open to me. So funny how that works out. Sometimes you think you know what you want, but nope, maybe not. So it's good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. We spent 1 month planning and ordering parts, and then another 2 building it out into our new home. boy!
So here is the half micron filter.
Moment of truth. Hello! Bad news. Our days were busy, our stress level high, and yet the to-do list seemed never ending.
Oh.
Am I supposed to screw them in? Alright, we've got 5 done. This looked like it was going to be more fun. Got a window out. We were so grateful to David's parents for letting us crash there, especially since we were there a few months longer than expected. It's not going well. It was a little bit of a wet endeavor.
Big moment for the AC. There we go.
A November deadline turned into a December deadline, which turned into a after Christmas deadline. But by New Year's Day, we set off again. Ready or not, it was time to head south. Well, the wind seems to be picking up and I'm getting a few sprinkles, so I'm gonna wrap things up here. But tune back in next week. We'll talk about our first adventures in the new rig, and let's just say things didn't go as planned. More on that later though. Cheers guys. If you liked this video, let us know by liking and subscribing. And don't forget, you can see more of the journey on Instagram and TikTok. Cheers, friends!